Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Hurdle the Line. This is your Week 7 preview show. Yes, we missed out on the Week 6 review show, but, we're your favourite ones anyway, so it don't really matter, does it, at the end of the day? And we are your favourite purely because we have a wonky camera, and we have Karl. How are you, sir?
Good, mate. I am very, very good. I'm very excited for this coming Sunday. Let's be real. Very excited to see our new quarterback, and overall, just in a very, very, very happy mood.
And most importantly, now you've seen my pathetic attempt at facial hair. You've seen Karl's pathetic attempt at facial hair. The man with the glorious beard that everyone knows and loves. We have Sam with us.
Sam puts us
How
to
are you,
shame.
sir?
He puts us to shame.
He does.
Yeah, I'm good. Had a great weekend in terms of football, given the fact that my NFL team was not involved in it up to this point, me and my college team, like football with our rivals. But yeah, if you want to go listen to that, go listen to the college should be out now, shouldn't it? So
Oh yeah, it's out. It was out this morning. Nearly didn't come out on time, but it did. Very, very thankful. I had a very late last night arguing with chat support on our provider of recordings. And you'll also hear about how I had the exact same, but in reverse. My NFL team was great. My college team didn't get to disappoint me this weekend in reverse. So, but speaking of disappointments, Karl, are you looking forward to Sunday? You are looking forward to Sunday, aren't you? The Patriots.
The 1-5 Patriots versus the 1-5 Jacksonville Jaguars. It is the London Super Bowl. This is the worst thing the Americans have done to the English since the American Revolution. It is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. But you go there to watch the game if you're one of those teams because you want to win. If you're a neutral, well, at least there's beer. That's all I'll say.
The London Dust Bowl, I think it should be.
It's the London Dust Bowl. That's why I call it the London Sewer Bowl, because it's just these teams really need an introduction. They're both trash. Their trips to the red zone are as bad as discourse between political parties. And one of the coaches is a dead man walking if he loses. So it's not my team's coach. Let's put it that way.
London Dust Bowl does have a nice ring to it. Maybe a December college football game over here. Like the London Dust Bowl or something. That's a question. That's a question for a Wednesday night, a discussion we could hold if there was a. But
it has to go in Tottenham. It has to go in Tottenham. It has to go in Tottenham Stadium though, because it is full of dust. So
then you just call it the Time Ball because the stadium actually.
As you do.
That was one of the funnier mentions on the NFL UK group Facebook group this week. The reminder that's always funny to see that. But let's get into a little bit of news as we look forward to the weekend. So this week, Justin Fields, we found out, has been dropped as the starter at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sam, you had a thought as to why?
It's this. What we know already is that it's going to be a conditional sixth pick originally. Conditional sixth that's been agreed when the trade happened. So essentially, if he plays a certain percentage of snaps, that then increases to a fourth. I think it is. Maybe
from 6 to a 4.
So yeah, that's what they're doing. They're essentially trying to protect their picks. Personally, I think it's a dumb idea because I don't rate Russell Wilson. I think he's been, he showed what he couldn't do in Denver. So I don't think he's necessarily going to do any better in Pittsburgh. So yeah, I understand the reasoning. It's just really, I just don't think it'll work out. But if Pittsburgh and that pressure's about losing a fourth over at sixth, then really season for it, it's fine.
Yeah, I just easily dropped out. Yeah, I so hardly agree with you in regarding of Justin Fields being benched for Russell Wilson. I just think what Justin Fields is very good at is getting out of the pocket with his legs, with his running ability. That's sort of what's extending Pittsburgh's drives right now. It ain't the passing game because George Pickens is acting like Antonio Brown 2.0 at this current state of play, and the only one that's worth a damn is Pat Freiermuth. The running game is very hit and miss, and it's Justin Fields running with the ball, doing quarterback draws. You've just took him out and put Russell Wilson in there, and it just looks, he doesn't have he doesn't have the legs anymore. He's completely shot. We gave him a chance in Denver, and it clearly didn't work there. He is in a better situation he's in a better situation, but at the same time, he's not the quarterback he once was. He really is not the quarterback he once was anymore. So I generally think I can see why they're doing it for the draft pick reasons, but at the same time, you're in a division with the Ravens who are firing all cylinders right now, and you're sitting second in the division currently, where you've got an opportunity of making the playoffs here, and now you want to deviate away from that. Considering what Justin Fields does actually bring. I say, and I'll also say this right now: the one thing that was very bad for Russell Wilson when he was in Denver, he was hanging on to that ball for far too long for my liking. He was getting smacked around all the time when he was in Denver, and the Steelers line, it's okay, it's not the greatest, but he's got to get that ball out quickly. And I just feel like this is a real bad move that the Steelers have done here.
I think as well, you've got to think about the fact that they're in a division with two of arguably the best defensive teams, arguably the best arguably the best defensive lineman, at least the best defensive end in the league, and what the edge in Myles Garrett. I don't think they're going to have if they play the Browns yet. I don't think they have, so they've got to play them twice. And Ross's game, he was at Seattle in his peak, was his ability to scramble and to get out of those positions and get to, an ability to be able to make a run. And he just doesn't have that ability anymore. He doesn't have the quickness that he once had. So it's going to be difficult when you've got the likes of the Ravens and the Browns defenses to face in the next however many games. So, it's you're playing with fire for the sake of losing to a fourth round pick. It seems that I don't know if you end up losing like a first or a second. I totally understand it, but there is a good chance. I'm saying they will. There is a good chance they could make a playoff position and wild card positions. Sacrifice that just for the sake of losing having a pick that was a second. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really sit right with people. You never know. Russ might actually surprise and reduce close to what he was like at Seattle even towards the end, and he doesn't have the same wide receiver core in Steelers that he did in Seattle.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a weird move, but feels well said that he didn't think he's played well enough to keep the position. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Just double checking. Can you guys see and hear me?
Yeah. You're a bit delayed on the talking, but we can hear you.
I do apologise. My Wi-Fi has again decided to be terrible this afternoon. No, just doesn't want to work today. Well, I'll try and get through as much as quickly as I can. Davante Adams has been traded to the New York Jets. This was for a third round pick that could move, a conditional third round pick that could move to a second round pick on the chance that it's either he starts for them in either the championship game or Super Bowl, or if he makes like an All-Pro this season, that will then move to a second. Cam Akers has been traded to the Vikings. He's back with the Vikings. Do you know what the terms were of that trade? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember seeing much about it. To be honest, I just remember he got traded.
Well,
very quickly. Conditional sick.
Right. And then Amari Cooper.
Sorry. The Vikings will send a 2026 sixth conditional draft pick in exchange for the Texans getting a 2026 seventh.
Right. Okay. And finally, Amari Cooper has been traded. Amari Cooper and a 6th round pick have been traded to the Bills for a 3rd round and a 7th round pick in return. Though 2 or 3 of those, we're going to have some fun talking about that later, because we're going to start talking a bit of fantasy football later on, and that's going to hopefully have some big implications. Everyone knows by now my pain with Amari Cooper. I've been very public about my pain with Amari Cooper in fantasy football. In other news, the NFL Owners 4 meeting took place this week. Tom Brady was officially approved as a minority owner of the Raiders. That's something we've been waiting for a few months. Karl, Brady being who he is, do you have any thoughts on this?
It feels very weird. Very, very weird. It's especially the fact that the first time we went to the Super Bowl and we had to go through the infamous tuck rule game, which was against the Raiders. It feels weird. Feels very weird. Feels very strange. But his playing career is completely over. He's allowed to do whatever he wants to do. I would have liked him to maybe have stayed with the Patriots in their organization, because him and Robert Kraft were pretty much like best friend / father-son type of relationship, if that makes sense. But look, I wish him all the best. I don't wish for any success for the Raiders, because they're a franchise that just runs themselves into the ground every time, and they haven't been good since the 80s. But good luck to him. And there's reports of him saying he wants to bring Bill Belichick in as head coach. I think that's just waffle. I think that's just hearsay until I see it for myself. I can personally say this for a fact right now. I think Belichick's going to one of 2 places, and one of them either of them are not the Raiders, and they're both in the NFC East. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So have you seen some of the conditions that he's got to meet, though, now with his broadcasting restrictions?
It's ridiculous.
It's
ridiculous. I think there was quite a few of them. One of them in particular was to do with his broadcasting, because obviously he is the second caller on Fox.
Yeah. So he's not permitted to be in another team's facility, so don't expect him to be doing any interviews with players at the training facilities and whatnot. He cannot attend another team's practice, cannot attend in-person or virtual broadcast production meetings with players or coaches. He cannot publicly criticise officials and other clubs. That's going to be tough. That was going to be fun.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
Does it mean by publicly criticise them because Karl saying the call was wrong? It, to me, isn't a criticism. Constructive criticism is fine.
If there is one thing the NFL does not like, is being called out for their bullshit. Let's be real.
So it's just it's like the Premier League, isn't it?
Basically, yeah, it's like the PGMOL. They don't like being called out on it. And
I do not agree with that decision. However, I do understand the situation in which took place and the reasonings for why the referee felt the need to make that call, even though I do not personally. That kind of thing you'll probably get. He must follow the NFL's gambling policy, follow the NFL's anti-tampering policies and limited to strictly social communications with members of other clubs. Yes, in Vegas. These rules do not apply to other members of the Fox crew. So other members of the Fox crew can tamper.
Money's got more money than what God. I think Brady is fairly better off than, say, all 3 of us put together here. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah, his deal with with is it Fox? It's Darren Fox. It's just astronomical.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It makes Gronk's and Edelman's contract look very, very minuscule.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, they've actually brought out their own podcast between the pair of them. They're back duoing again. And they have. It's called Dudes Will Be Dudes, apparently, or something along those lines. And I tell you what, it is. I've watched the first episode. It is bloody good fun. Yeah. It's no ways good. It's not quite as good as the Kelsey Brothers podcast, not by any stretch, because Jason just makes me laugh every single time. He's just a crazy. Fletch's internet's dropped out again. So
yeah, we've got Fletch. I mean, one of the things have you seen? Just as a side note, did you watch Jason Kelsey at the Bills last week? The tailgating because he loves it when he goes to see the Bills.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are trying to say that one of the best tailgates you could go to in the NFL is Buffalo, because the fans are they're that passionate, that raucous, and the fact they put everyone through freaking tables. You can tell where most of the ECW fans went. You can tell that much.
Yeah, that was fun watching it. So it's nice to see to be able to have players be able to do that sort of thing, and obviously ex-players, but essentially allow them to be able to enjoy themselves. So he wasn't able to drink, but he was able to, as he said, eat a lot of sausage.
Am I back again now?
Yes.
You are.
Right, again, it's this Wi-Fi. It's funny, though, because, again, speaking to our provider of recordings, nothing else in my entire house has this problem. My whole computer does not have this problem until I get on Riverside, but apparently it's my fault or my internet's fault. Never happens any other time, at any other place, with any other bit of software or whatever. Only with Riverside, but apparently it's my fault. Yeah, it's a me problem. So try and get again through as quickly as possible. Tom Gause has had his 27% ownership of the Chargers approved. F that useless so-and-so. He is a owner of the Pistons, and he's absolutely useless, so good luck Chargers with that one. The Jags Stadium redevelopment, which, by the way, looks... I don't know if you guys have seen the designs of it. It looks incredible. $1.4 billion has been approved, which I believe, and I've seen to you guys off air, it's next year they have to play at a slightly reduced capacity. It's something like 60,000. In 2026 they have to play at like 45,000 capacity. And then in 2027 they can't play in that stadium at all. So good luck, because as I said to my friends in the group chat, in my Detroit Lions group chat over in the States, sending over the Jacksonville Jaguars one more time will be sending them over for that season will be considered an act of war. It will be considered a complete understanding and disrespect of our international agreements and friendship and relationship. And I can assure them of that will be the case, and this will not be taken lightly. But can you see the NFL trying to do something where they trial that, like you said earlier this season, Karl, by the way, and Roger Goodell did his Q&A thing for the NFL UK stuff this weekend, where he was saying one idea that he has is to play about 16 international games a season, one every week, which is something you said earlier this year, Karl. Could this be an attempt to try and see if that happens?
In 2027, there is a possibility of that. All I'll say is this: they need to have a meeting with Dean Spanos, the Chargers owner, and you say, what's it like playing 16 road games every season? Because guess what? That's what they've been doing for the last 3 years. They've been playing road games in that bloody stadium, because if you watch Chargers games, they've been outrun by Raiders, Chiefs, Eagles, Steelers, Dolphins, Patriots. You get the point, right? Yeah. If they were meant to do it, I think the best solution for Jacksonville, if it was they can't play in the stadium at all, they need to try and home share somewhere, like home share with Miami or home share with Tampa Bay. Try and do that. At least you're staying in that part of the Florida region. Where if they turn around and say, no, we're either going to send you to Wembley Stadium, or we're going to send you to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for an entire season, that's going to really annoy a lot of Jacksonville Jaguars fans, especially over in the United States, because it basically means then they've got to wait for their team to come over to the States to actually play.
Yeah.
And you never know. I don't know what there will be in 2027. They could have either 9 home games or 8 home games. I'm not quite 100% sure. But it's going to be in a few years' time. It's going to be a mess. What happens with Jacksonville? I mean, they could play in a college stadium. They could play at Jackson State, for all I know. They could do that program, but they are completely. I don't know what the Sam. I don't know if you can look this up for me. What the attendance of Jackson State is of their stadium. I mean, if it's around about 50,000, then you might sort of get away with it.
It is 24,000. Is the Burgess the Jersey Stadium?
That doesn't even. That's a high school flipping stadium. That is. So no, obviously. So that's off the table then. So where they're going to go. It remains to be seen. The outlet of the new stadium looks absolutely amazing. It looks fantastic. It looks so modern, really, really nice. And no wonder they're going to host a Super Bowl in there at some point when it's up and running. No question, or shadow of a doubt about it. But they need to put an agreement in place with either Tampa Bay or with Miami to say, look, can we home share your stadium whilst ours being completely redone in 2027? The worst case scenario is them actually having to stay in London. And you've also got, it's not just the fans, it's the players as well. They'll be away from their friends, they'll be away from their family. This would not feel, and it would be away from home. They would get homesick. Forget the injuries like knee, elbow, ankle, ACL injury. It will knock you out the rest of the season anyway. But any particular type of injury, it'll be done by the real mental illness, which is homesickness.
Yeah,
they'll be homesick, and the only time they were going to go home was probably when they're on their bye week.
Yeah. Well, one thing,
or probably back then in 2027, we may have that 18-game schedule, and they could end up putting 2 bye weeks in potentially back then.
So, Karl, that's what I'll ask. Just because I'm pretty sure it works this way, but I'm not 100% sure. Sam, do the Rams have 9 or 8 home games this year?
And
Karl, same with the Patriots.
That's a question. Is it?
We've got.
I'm pretty sure the Rams have 9.
I think we got 9 road games because one of our games is international. So I think we've got 9 road games this year. I think.
I'm pretty sure the Rams are 9 home games.
So
the Lions have 9 home.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9 home games.
Yeah.
So the NFC have 9. I'm pretty sure it works. I know it works this way. Just making triple shot. So we both have NFC teams. We both have 9 home games. Karl has the AFC team. They have 8 home games. Because it's all down to that extra game they give. Like the 17th game, AFC gets it 1 year, NFC gets it as a home game the next year.
Yeah.
Next year will be AFC, that's 2025. 2026 will be NFC. 2027 will be AFC, so that's 9 home games that they should have for 2027.
It make a blind bit of difference because they're going to play 17 road games anyway.
So,
they end up playing 3 of those home games in London at minimum.
Yeah, if you're going to do a 3-game stretch in London, Jags all 3.
Yeah.
It
might be good for the rest of the fans in terms of you might see a bit of variety and things like that. But it's the only viable way that they can do it. Where they, I'm trying to think of where else they can go. I mean, Jacksonville's kind of. It's North Florida, isn't it? So it's not like it's particularly close. Florida's not particularly close to Tampa. It's not at all close to Miami. It's the other side of the state, so I don't know what the next closest stadium would be to them. Because obviously, like I said, the other Jacksonville stadiums are Italy, so they're not going to play there. Let's just have a quick look. the next closest stadium.
I want to say, Jack, it's like
Jackson.
northeast of Florida, isn't it? It's like right on the northeast.
Yeah, it's like literally no. I mean, again, without knowing about the other, I mean, Charlotte and Raleigh and Greensboro are three large cities nearby. I remember one of them have a stadium that's big enough to host to hold them. Well, you know,
Gainesville.
yeah, Gainesville, Georgia.
Oh, what, home of the Gators?
No, Gainesville, Florida. Home of the Gators.
Okay.
Gainesville, Florida, sorry.
Isn't that home of the Florida? Isn't that home of the Gators, though?
I believe so. But you're talking a stadium big enough to host an NFL. But the problem is, and here would be my problem, right? I don't see any issue with college teams using NFL stadiums. But what's the thing with all college stadiums? Where are they? On college campuses. Do you want 50 to 60 plus thousand strangers, pretty much all adults, so like nothing to do with that college, turning up on your college campus? I just think, look, I just think there's something a bit funny, like having thousands and thousands of people. I know they do. I know people travel for road games in college. That happens. But your NFL crowd is a different crowd to the normal ones you're going to get at a college. The difference for the people that are going to travel for college, I just think it's odd having so many people turn up on a college campus that have nothing to do with the college. Just personally.
The only thing is the fact that, you know, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, it is an 88,000 seat stadium, so it's probably the biggest stadium that's closest to them. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did end up playing there just purely because they need a stadium. Well, yeah, and it would probably take a monumental agreement because then you've got to factor in the fact that Florida will be playing there too.
Yes.
And it's not as simple as having all the charges and the rounds. It's so you just have to make sure that they're not scheduled in the same place because they're all both part of the NFL. This is someone who's in the NCAA or even in the SEC and is then also in the NFL. There would have to be such complicated agreements that go along with that as well.
This is why I'm saying, like, having NFL teams play at college stadiums is just, I think there's just going to be a bit too much that goes into it in terms of messing around and those sort of agreements. Because you've got to promise certain safeguarding things for students who are on that campus, etc., that you can get when you are another college team that I just don't think you can potentially give when you're an NFL team. But again, that conversation can continue for a variety of different ways. Final little bit of stadium news. The Atlanta Falcons are going to host Super Bowl 62. I think we need to all start schmoozing up to Chapman a little bit for the next couple of years. Just look, don't get me wrong. Listen, right, boys, we're going to work it. We're all going to get media passes to the Super Bowl that year because that's how big we're going to be. But we're going to need somewhere to stay, and I ain't paying for them sort of hotel prices, and neither is the network. So we need to start schmoozing up to Chapman for a place to stay in and around that time. So I hope he don't listen to this, and then he knows why we're being nice to him all of a sudden. Final.
As I said, it's one of the better stadium news, and that's that the Cleveland Browns have announced that they're pushing forward with efforts to bring in a dome at Brook Park. They've released a load of the images, I think, from what they want it to look like. And to be fair, it doesn't look. I don't know if it looks good or not. I mean, this is probably more of a question for Ollie. I know that he's, like just reading some of the comments. There's a lot of people who don't agree with the fact that they're bringing a home stadium to Cleveland. There's a lot of people that actually think it looks really nice and it could be good to have another stadium. It'd be interesting to get Ollie's word in terms of how he feels about the move to a dome at Brook Park.
They announced this a while ago. They wanted to do it a while ago, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
they've now re-announced and they've stated a statement to say that they are pushing forward with it and they've released a load of the images for it.
Yeah, well, I'm saying the number one thing that came out at the time was like a whole dome in the AFC North. They're all meant to be really tough in the AFC North, and that's where all like the hardballs played, and you don't have a note. That means you're soft. But do you know what that gives them the opportunity to do? Same with Chicago, right? The NFC North, you've got Green Bay, you've got a massive stadium, no dome. Chicago Bears, no dome. US Bank Stadium has a dome, I believe, but I can't actually tell you off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it does, because it's one of those really ultra modern ones. The Chicago Bears are doing it. What does that now give them the option to do?
There's a venue.
A venue for the Super Bowl. They can now host a Super Bowl.
Just a venue for any.
Well, yeah. It's an all-year, all-round venue that they can now use for whatever. But also, it means that they can bid and host a Super Bowl and bring that to the city, and we know the money that brings to a city.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to say, but that's the way. That's
Yeah.
the way it released that.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, I will be honest. This isn't me being a real, being a bit pessimistic or anything. But if you look at the outlets that you've seen from the Raiders Stadium, and then you look at Buffalo's, and then you sort of look at Jacksonville, and now you have a look at Cleveland. I'm sorry to say this, but they all look a little bit broadly similar. The exterior doesn't. The exterior will look different. All stadiums will look different from the exterior, but inside it just feels. It just feels like the same sort of designs. It does. There are two types of designs I see of stadiums now. One which is sort of similar to that, and then there's sort of the one at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium where they've just got the humongous, the stand from top to bottom, all up one end. And I believe Marseille, if I'm not mistaken, in France, their stadium is exactly the same design as Tottenham Stadium as well, if I'm not mistaken. It all just looks a bit the same old to me. And I can understand why they're starting to do this, okay? Because, they want to host a Super Bowl, they want to bring more to the community, they want to bring more money into the city, and I completely and utterly understand that. But back in the olden days, if the Super Bowl was being held in, say, Minnesota, or being held in Pittsburgh, or somewhere in a really cold place, you got no choice. You have to play in the Super Bowl in that cold place. And the only, and there was a lot of people saying, well, maybe we could do for the 50th, but the 50th Super Bowl was in Levi's. They should really do for another big anniversary, like the 75th anniversary, like go back to a cold weather stadium to how it all felt, how it all began. But everyone now wants it all inside, all climate control, all sort of, keeping all the noise inside and so on. And I just feel like the Titans' new layout as well, that looks similar to Cleveland's new one. It does look very similar.
Well,
by the exterior, as I've said, outside. But that's my take on it. I mean, I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, there's got to be only so many people and companies that do designs like this that the NFL will trust, or that will be available to teams to go to for designs. There's only got to be so many companies in America that will do it to this sort of scale.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, I think it's.
And
so this is maybe me just being, I like to see different stuff. Like, so I'll say, we're talking like this great football thing. Like the Allianz Arena is a phenomenally looking stadium. There's like really nice thing. What they've done at the Bernabeu looks absolutely amazing. It looks different to a lot of the stadiums. And whereas it seems like there just seems to be this like fairly generic box feel. I mean, again, without being biased, I think the SoFi Stadium is a fairly nice level, like
that's fair.
Looking stadium, because it's obviously got that like element that they can stick on the top. And things like that. So
it's built underground. It's built underground as well, because where you're located is not far away from an airport, and it's right where the planes take off. So it's had to be designed underground in order for it to work. But it's a fantastic stadium. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and I think there's the opportunity that these teams could go for something maybe slightly different. I get the reasoning behind going to a dome stadium because of the way the NFL is going in terms of wanting to play most of wanting the intention of being able to have an indoor stadium where it's essentially all weather and all weather stadium. The ability to be able to have it as not just a football stadium, also having it as like an actual venue for events and such as well. So I kind of understand it. It's just,
Yeah.
me personally, I like to just see a few more different designs rather than just a square.
Well, a conversation for another day as well is putting domes over stadiums puts everyone in the position of having to use turf over grass. And we all know how players feel about turf over grass and the complications that come with that. But again, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
The off-season.
But
Yeah.
it does lead into a nice segue into a couple of injuries have popped up. My Detroit Lions, we have lost who was going to be the defensive player of the year, the real defensive player of the year, Aiden Hutchinson, who will be out for the season. I'm in an iron about whether he'll be back for the playoffs or not, but I'm just going to say on my personal thing, he's not going to be back for the playoffs. He's not going to be back for the Super Bowl. So he'll just have to watch us win it from the television, unfortunately for him. But no, that
makes sense.
That was gruesome. That was gruesome.
Well, let me quickly say, I was watching on a ship. I was sailing the seven seas on Sunday, very, very busy at the time when I was watching it. So I was a couple of minutes behind my compatriots who were also watching it at the time. And they kind of very much, Fox, I think, figured out very quickly what kind of injury it was. So they cut straight away, which is fair. So, but because I'm a couple of minutes behind, the play had happened and my compatriot says, oh, fuck, Hutch has sacked him. Dak's down. And I'm like, well, thanks for ruining the play for me. I'm kind of waiting for it to happen. She goes, no shit, he's still down. Hutch is still down. So I was kind of mentally prepared. So I looked for certain things, and you knew straight. The second he took his gloves off, you just went, yeah, this isn't your normal. He's not just hurt his knee a little bit. This is bad. And you realise quite quickly how bad it was.
Looked really innocuous as well. Like the actual man essentially his leg just swung into his other D-line's leg and just sucked it off.
Liam McNeil. It was a Liam. Just kind of. It was, just to put it like, it was a freak accident kind of thing that, look, the risks you take when you are in scrimmages like that, when your bodies are up flying all over the place, and look, he flew in for Dak Prescott. These are the risks that, unfortunately, make that scrimmage happen 100 times again. No one's leg's going to fall in that same position and get hit in the same way. 100 times out of 100, this is a freak accident that is just the way it's ended Hutchinson's season. Very, very devastated, and as you can imagine, and so was the whole Lions fan base. And watching the kind of, I guess, the tributes. I know the way listening to people talk about him throughout the year just makes you realise just how we knew his value, but actually he was genuinely appreciated around the league for his talent. And
it's more than that though, mate, because he was a Michigan Wolverine. He came from East Michigan. He is a Michigan boy through and through. So you only got to look at that. This is a loss to the team and to the franchise. This is also a loss to the community. It's a loss to the city. They pinned Aiden Hutchinson as their poster child.
Yeah.
Forget anybody else in any sports right now in Detroit. Aiden Hutchinson, they're pinning down as the poster boy. Yeah. So the fact you've lost him for the season, that hurts the city just as much as the franchise would.
But what I will say, and I don't know how much of this comes across from outside, because sometimes when things like this happen, the reaction feels almost very inward. So you don't know how much is the way the city's rallied around, and the way it just seems to have turned into this unifying moment for the city of Detroit is just it's been quite magical to see, if I'm perfectly honest. The guy who we did bump into, though, Willie McNeil, has just got paid on Tuesday. He got a 4-year, $97 million deal with $55 million guaranteed. Very, very deserved. Finally, in a little bit of injury news, Rashid Shaheed has had meniscus surgery, and it will be a multi-month recovery process for him.
4 to 6 months, Tom Pelissero has just reported. 4 to 6 months out.
4 to 6 months. Okay. Well, that's the news, and I'm glad that we flew through that really quickly. Monday Night Football. Did either of you watch Monday Night Football this week?
Watched the highlights,
highlights.
And it was some of the most heinous ref ball I've ever seen in my life. We do need to have a discussion here about the officiating because, you know, we always complain about when refs go against our own teams and so on. But as a neutral watching that game, I have never seen. There's a lot of phantom calls being made for some no good reason whatsoever. I think in that game, 200 yards in penalties between both teams. Surely that is not down to undiscipline from both teams. I know the Jets are the most undisciplined team in the NFL. I think second is probably us, not by a country mile, but, you know, probably us. But even still, it wasn't good. And to make matters even more laughable, the Jets ended up losing the game. They had a number of chances to put that game away. Their kick was Greg the Leg Zerline decided to play the freaking crossbar challenge instead of putting the ball through the bloody uprights. He hit the bar twice. Hitting once is an anomaly. Hitting it twice takes bloody good skill. But the Bills kept letting them in and so on. Both defenses shut their quarterbacks down for the entirety of that second half, and the Jets couldn't do anything about it. And, you know, the Bills come away with the win, and I think they just about deservedly so managed to do it. Well done to Aaron Rodgers throwing his fourth Hail Mary touchdown of his career. I think there's one good thing Aaron Rodgers does do is the Hail Mary. But we've already said about the Davante Adams going to the Jets.
Yeah.
Interesting to say that Mike Williams hasn't practiced this week, or rather hasn't practiced yesterday and today. Interesting that, considering he was the one who apparently ran the wrong route on Rodgers. When if you actually anyone with a pair of eyeballs would have seen, Mike Williams slipped. You can't control your footing. He slipped on the play, and it ended up being an interception. And Aaron Rodgers basically threw. This is why I hate Aaron Rodgers to such a certain extent, right? You look at Brady, you look at Manning, you look at Joe Montana, you look at even Russell Wilson to that certain degree. They all show a level of accountability. They will never pin it on players. They will always turn around and say, maybe I should have thrown the ball better. We need to do better. We all need to do better as a team because we lost this game and so on. Rodgers is an egotistical maniac, and any time any of his receivers whose name is not Davante Adams, or is not Alan Lazard, or is not Randall Cobb, or is not Jordy Nelson, they make a mistake, he calls them out. It is utter hypocrisy from this bloke. He's now got what he wanted. He's got everything he's wanted now. And I don't want to hear any more excuses from him regarding of that. But now you look at the depth chart on the Jets. You look at Davante Adams. You look at Alan Lazard. You look at Garrett Wilson. Mike Williams ain't a wide receiver 4. Not by any stretch of the imagination. What are you going to do? If you're a wide receiver 4, you're on special teams. Mike Williams is too good of a receiver to be on special teams. So keep an eye out for him being traded for a 6th, 7th round pick going somewhere. Keep an eye out on that.
So there's a few.
They put Todd Downing in They put Todd Downing in as the OC to try and help this offense. And it didn't change my thoughts of how it was when they had Nathaniel Hackett calling plays. Nothing's different. Nothing's different. Nothing's changed. They are. Do you know who the Jets are? They're Krager from. Do you ever used to watch Seinfeld? No. There's a character in there called Krager who always kept smashing his way through the door and always coming up with a great idea every single week. But he was labelled as the crazy one. You need stability in a franchise. The Jets are not a stable franchise. This is why I don't trust them making the playoffs. And we'll find out who Rodgers is going to point the finger of blame next.
Yeah.
We didn't he blame on Rodgers? Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. Who's he going to blame? Is he going to blame Ulbrich?
Mike Williams.
Is he going to blame Downing? Is he going to blame Mike? He's already blamed Mike Williams. He's out on his arse in the next couple of weeks. Woody Johnson,
Brees
Hall, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner for not getting an interception when he needed to. This is why I don't like the guy. I simply don't like the guy. I'm sorry if this is me going on an absolute rant.
No, it's fine, because this is going to get us some great views on TikTok, so please go for it.
God, I've had my say. I've done my rant. I've done my soliloquy.
Patriots Madman goes on 7-minute Jets
Sam, you have your say.
No, it's. I'm up to my thoughts on it when we look at one of the other segments. Because I've got some interesting things to say there.
Yeah. So all I'll say is, do you know what? Thanks for sucking all of the Rodgers hate out the room. I didn't get a chance to go for it. Thanks. So I'll be the one to say, I'll be the one to throw something nice about Rodgers, eh? Even Rodgers came out after the game and criticised the penalties. I watched. So I think I fell asleep at some point during Monday Night Football. Probably did. I kind of came back about an hour later and I was watching some of the highlights of the flags that were thrown. Some of those roughing the passes were ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous. So just for clarification, per NFL GSIS, and just about everywhere, to be fair, the Bills had 11 penalties for 94 yards. The Jets had 11 penalties for 110 yards. That is 204 yards in penalties over 22 penalties all game. That's ridiculous. Extremely ridiculous. And so yeah, I'll leave that on the. That's how I'll leave that one. But that now leaves the Bills 4-2. The Jets are 2-4. And yeah, we'll probably end up touching again, like Sam said, on this on a slightly different segment. But first, I want us to go back in time, or just a little bit back in time to the week before the season. Now, for those who are returning, I want you to imagine your favourite episode where you saw me turn up looking like a shit snooker player, because I wore a suit for this one. I'm gathering that no. Looks like we're in the clear. So I need to go back to the time where I wore a suit and looked like a shit snooker player just a few weeks ago, as we discussed our end of season awards in the pre-season, because that's what smart people do. I'm going to go back and we're just going to have a little look at some of the selections we chose, and just kind of just discuss where we're at with them, if that's okay with you boys. We'll go work backwards. So comeback player, coach of the year. Sorry, we'll start with coach of the year. Raheem Morris. How do we feel about Raheem Morris as coach of the year 6 weeks in? Sam. So, Karl, you've had like 45 minutes. Sam, let you go first on this one.
That's fine.
I think he's done okay. I don't think he's necessarily done coach of the year level stuff. I think he's still working out how to get this team to play its optimum. I personally still don't think we've seen enough of Bijan Robinson, and I think that he is showing signs of significant improvement on the offense. So maybe if they can continue on the trajectory that they're on, given the fact that they're sort of, what are they now? 4-2, 3-4-2, I think they are. So, it's probably where I expect them to be. But yeah, I think I would probably say that O'Connell's probably done a lot better job given the situation that when we started the season. So I would probably say that he's definitely not. I don't think he's the current favourite, and in terms of who's available, but I think he still stands a chance given the fact of where the Falcons were last year and where they currently are this year.
Yeah, no problem. Karl?
when we looked at the off-season acquisitions that the Falcons had done, we kind of looked at it and went, yeah, this coach might be able to get something. Raheem Morris is a very good DC. He came out of the 49ers. Anyone who comes out of a DC for the 49ers usually turns out well. Well, Robert Saleh, unfortunately, is an exception. We have to make of that. But overall, he's coached well, but he is in a division. We thought the Falcons would actually take this division away from the Bucs, but the Bucs not letting this go without a fight. So I think coaching-wise, I think he does deserve his credits. He does deserve his due. But now we look back on, they were our MVP for Coach of the Year, our preseason one. It does look a little bit like we maybe could have gone a different direction. But I think no one was expecting us to say the coach of the Vikings was going to take this team. This team was going to be 5-0 going into week 7. No one expected the Vikings to do that, not without JJ McCarthy. So, and the fact that they've come across those done well. I'm pretty sure that you said Dan Campbell, I think, should be in conversation for Coach of the Year, and I think he should be as well because now he hasn't got to work without he's now got to work without his bet. Well, I like to hope so. Anyway, now he's got to work without his best pass rusher. It'll be astronomical if he actually does make the Super Bowl. Then you can probably put him into the conversation as well.
So I had Dan Campbell. So the way we worked it pre-season was I asked everybody to vote in private, and then if someone voted third place, they got 1 point. Voted second place, 2 points. Voted first place, 3 points, and whoever got the most points at the end was given the title. So I had Raheem Morris and then Dan Campbell in second. And let me just see if I can find the result. So the full results: Dan Campbell came second overall as well for this. 2 people did actually put Dan Campbell as first overall, neither of which were me on that one. To which I would say that I think the way the league works and the way that Coach of the Year is going to work, I now fully believe that Dan Campbell is out of it and has been, and this is why I think Dan Campbell maybe last year was also out of that running before the season realistically started. You have to go above and beyond the expectation for your team. And the way the first season ended with Dan, maybe the second season he had that serious opportunity. But after the way the second season ended, going 9-8 and ever so slightly missing out on the playoffs, but on such a trajectory going up, the expectation of that team was so high that actually winning the division, everyone just kind of, okay, it was great, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people just kind of went, do you know what, fair enough, but we expected that of you. And unless he went 17-0 or 16-1 and coached the greatest regular season team of all time, he wasn't in with it. So I think it's got to go for teams that, like, if you have a low expectation of a team going in, if they seriously exceed that expectation, that's why I think someone like O'Connell absolutely has done that. No one expected much from the Vikings this year. And I think it was fair for when Chapman said, when we were going through this again, Chapman did not vote for Raheem Morris at all. Because he said there's an expectation on the Falcons that they've at least been around the point. Like, they've been 7-10 and around that not too bad mark for a few seasons. That jumping up a little bit isn't that much of an achievement. So I think, if you're going to put forward a Coach of the Year, they have to exceed a certain level of expectation. Dan Campbell has a level of expectation now that isn't enough, and that's why I said saying with Sam saying about you there. I think that's why Aidan O'Connell for me is probably the best now because he's exceeded expectation with the Vikings.
Yeah, agreed.
So we go in with Comeback Player of the Year. Winner of Comeback Player of the Year, well, everyone knew where this was going anyway. Do we still all believe that it's Aaron Rodgers? Now, I'm going to post really quick. I posted a stat last week on the AAW Network socials. after the Robert Saleh firing, Aaron Rodgers' odds to win it have not changed. I've not checked this week, but his odds to win it have not changed. Or did not change for quite a while. So he's still the favourite to win it in the bookies. Do we still feel that same way now, especially given how the season's gone so far?
Yes, to answer it simply, purely not based upon the fact that he necessarily deserves it, but just the way that I know that these things go. Like he's the only way that he could potentially have not won it is if it basically be either got another injury or come back even half the player that he was when he got injured. I think that's the thing. All he had to do was just not finish with a worse record than what the Jets have had last year, and then he'd be fine. When you actually look at the numbers of it, he's actually, they did we look at it a couple of weeks after like week 5 or something, they are the exact same, pretty much the exact same stats as the
Zach
Jets in
Wilson.
the previous year. So, you know, it's just one of those where it's his name is going to take him through and get that comeback player. That's all it is.
Yeah. So I want to
Well-
say this as well. So a little bit of guidance came out this offseason with regards to the Comeback Player of the Year award, and AP have well, put some more specific wording in for the criteria for the award. The spirit of the AP Comeback Player of the Year award is to honour a player who has demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity by overcoming illness, physical injury, or other circumstances that led him to miss playing time the previous season. The decision to provide this guidance was made last December, but could not be implemented for the 2023 awards because the season was almost completed, hence why Joe Flacco was able to win it. People have put forward Joe Flacco's name again this year because, you know, he was put in a bad position and now he's come back and he's like 94 and still smashing it. But that is, so you've got to have overcome illness, physical injury, or other circumstances that lead you to miss playing time the previous season. And Rodgers fits that bill best.
I mean, looking at the current odds on Sky Bet, and using these as an example, Kirk Cousins is currently the favourite 2-1. Now, if you
Okay.
compare him to Aaron Rodgers, I'd probably say that Kirk Cousins is currently doing better in terms of overcoming that injury, given the fact they both had the exact same injury. And Kirk Cousins came back at the exact same time as Rodgers and was off at a short period to do it. J.K. Dobbins is currently second. Now he's had a brilliant season so far. He's had pretty much 2 seasons out with injuries. So you could arguably say he's come back after 2 seasons of pure injuries. And he's basically taken everything given the fact that Gus Edwards had a great season with the Ravens before he went to the Chargers. He was seen as the number 1 running back at the time, or at least one of them. I will be UCA. Dobbins has come in and taken that off of him. Now, obviously, Gus is out on IR. I mean, looking at that, I mean, he deserves to be just, and then Aaron Rodgers is third at 4-1. So it'd be interesting to see what happens coming up because obviously you've got Nick Chubb coming this week. Now, if he comes back and even reaches the levels that he was at before he got injured, we could be looking at him potentially in that question. The only problem I have with it is the fact that Rodgers is the name. He is or was the guy at one point. So this is why I think that he'll still get it because he's the guy. But realistically, I think there are other people up there who I think probably deserve it way more than he will.
Yeah. That's fair. Entirely fair. So, next award was the Defensive Rookie of the Year. We gave that to Dallas Turner. Now, let me go back in. Who you put in first? Okay, so Karl, you didn't actually vote in the end. You were the deciding vote on a couple of the tiebreakers on the episode, if you remember. those two, and you'd have me top three. So at the time, we said Dallas Turner. Do you agree with Dallas Turner being the defensive rookie of the year at this moment in time? I'm trying to get his. I didn't think we would. Trying to get his stuff up there. Put it this way. I've got NFL GSIS open, and I've got like the top X amount of defensive players by about a billion statistics in front of me, and I can't see Dallas Turner's name anywhere. I see a couple of other rookies in there, but I can't see Dallas Turner. Who do you think should be up for this award then, as it stands after week 6?
Karl, do you want to go first? Because I'm very biased decision to talk.
You're going to say Jared first, aren't you?
I'm going to say Jared first.
I knew you would say Jared first. No, I'll let you take it for all, mate, because I'm stuck. I'm stuck with this one.
Yeah, Jared versus has been one of my most important players this season on defense, and guarantee that defense has been absolutely dreadful. He has looked at home in our defense, and I think when you look at all that, with the Rams defense as a whole, D-line has been the better of the two sections in terms of secondary in the trenches, and Jared versus has been quite a big part of that. And I just think, the fact that he probably wasn't, I don't think he was even in the question for being defensive rookie, and he has performed up there as one of the best ones this year. Just shows that, maybe the underrating of him, and I think maybe that, I think the Aaron Donald bubble that surrounded the Rams in terms of him leaving, so maybe put the other players under a bit of, underrate them a bit because of the fact that they went having Aaron Donald around them, maybe. I think for me, Jared versus it should at least be in the argument. I don't think at the moment, again, God's Sky, he is the favourite at the moment. The only other player that I think has done quite well, I haven't watched too much of him. He was someone I wanted the Rams to go and get, and that's Latu. And he's another one that, again, he's performed very well for the Colts this year, from what I've heard. Again, you probably have to go and check the stats, but he's currently the second favourite. Dallas Turner is down at the fourth favourite, 10-1, so he's quite away.
Yeah. I was going to also throw out Latu as someone who was catching my eye. I was really, really hoping that so far in the discussion would be Terry Arnold, but unfortunately I don't think he's in that conversation at the moment.
Very handsy this season, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I think, again, but this is why I'm partly glad that we had the bye week the way we did early in the season, because now he has 12 weeks to take some of that handiness off tape and those penalties off tape, which will hopefully be helpful. But I would absolutely agree there at the moment. The Latu up there for me. Quinion Mitchell. I've been impressed by Quinion Mitchell so far. And I do believe, if I should get that back up again, who had the best odds now? The top 5. In the top 5 for odds, according to sportsbettingdime.com, is Jared Verse, who's the favourite. I can't remember all these bloody odds were. Then it's Latu, Quinion Mitchell, Dallas Turner, and Tavondre Sweat.
I think one player that could be interesting and worth keeping an eye on is Byron Murphy.
Very much so. Yes.
He's played very well. He's been a very important piece for Seattle. And he then did get injured, I think, for a game or two. And they didn't look as good on that O-line, on that D-line.
Their secondary is ruined. It's absolutely ruined. So
keep an eye on Byron Murphy. He might be one of my creepers way up those odds.
I'm going to answer a question in the question. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Does Jaden Daniels taken over Marvin Harrison Jr. as our Offensive Player of the Year?
1,000%.
Third in the
You're
vote.
just going to ignore Caleb Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Ollie. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Look,
listen, I've been on the Jaden Daniels train pretty much most of this season. And then I actually sat down and watched Chicago knock the snot out of Jacksonville. Caleb looked very, very, very efficient. People have said he's labelled as the next Patrick Mahomes. He's not labelled. He's not going to be the next Patrick Mahomes because we already have a Patrick Mahomes. He's called Patrick Mahomes. So instead of trying to be the next Patrick Mahomes, beg your pardon, why not be the first Caleb Williams?
Well, yeah.
And Caleb, the way I watched him, there was a certain play, I can't remember when it was, where he's going through his reads, he looks left, centre, right, goes back to his left, and then throws to his first read. That's helping off the O-line, obviously, giving him the time. But the way how he sees the game and how he slings and how he finds his players is actually really, really good. I was really impressed with Caleb Williams in that game, and I think unless Jayden Daniels completely takes off, Jayden Daniels has been surgically very, very good. But I am still waiting for him to have that game where he needs to have that clutch moment. In the same way, I'm still waiting for Caleb to have that clutch moment in all due honesty. Yeah. But we know Caleb Williams can do that. Jayden Daniels, I still need to see that yet before I change my mind.
My only thing with Caleb Williams, especially against that Jags defense,
which is poor.
Jags team had been that performance in which it was good performance. I enjoyed watching him develop over the last few weeks in terms of when we think about when he started the season compared to now, he has massively improved. And it's sort of got to grips with the NFL where the NFL plays. People still to remember this was the 32nd best team on defense in the NFL. So they're one of the worst defenses in the league.
I could give you if you want, I can give you a stat here, which I've bookmarked on it. Where it is, here we go. By Patriots beat report, Alvin Lazard. The Jaguars are allowing a league worst 128.3 passer rating to slot receivers this season. 45 catches, 458 yards, and 5 touchdowns. There you go.
It's bad. It's really fair enough. They don't have fellow comes out there as out at the moment in Ohio. So I know there's a big part of your defense out. Their defense is so bad. I don't want to take away what Caleb did in that game because it was good and anything credit to him where he played well, he did his read well, he did everything he needed to do.
But you're going to say it's Jacksonville.
He needs to do it this week. He needs to step up. He needs to do exactly what he needs, Jaguars, and do it this week and show that he can be consistent. Obviously, I'm not expecting him to 400 yards every single week. It's just not going to happen. But they've got who they got this week. They don't have a game. They have a bye week this week.
Yeah.
So he's going to come back off the bye week and play against. We go check against the Commanders. So we are about to see a very interesting game where we get to compare Daniels.
If that game is not flexed to prime to Sunday Night Football, I'm going to be losing it.
Flexed though. I think that was a 1 p.m. game that's been flexed to 4:25 already.
So
it's in English time. It's 25:08. So
that's the week.
Oh yeah,
that's the week.
We get an extra hour. Yay!
So it's 25:08 kickoff. Start.
I can't.
I
can't wait to go to sleep at like 3:30 in the morning. Instead, it's going to hit different.
So it's going to be interesting that game because I think I watched quite a bit of the Commanders game against the Ravens, and I thought their defense was going to be good against the Ravens, given the fact that we know about the Ravens are on offense. So I think it'll be an interesting game, and for me it's the test. Can you step up? Show your game where you can be, where people expect you to go, at least close to where they expect you to be. Now can you maintain it? Now can you show it against a better team, a better defense, and potentially cement your offensive rookie player status against the other guy who realistically you're going to be against?
So what I'll say is, so that's a conversation we can pin for in 2 weeks' time. On Halloween night, we will get together and we will we can come back to this question of Caleb or Jaden, and we'll have a good idea. But also, what I will say is, given that the question, obviously it's a hypothetical at the moment. These aren't official. This isn't an official award ceremony. I'm not wearing a tie. So this is after 6 weeks, and at the end of the day, I think Jaden Daniels has shown 6 weeks of being over 6 weeks has been better than Caleb Williams. The last 4 weeks, the last 3 weeks, if Caleb Williams continues that to the rest of the season, absolutely. And I'm very, very sadly impressed with what I've seen. If Caleb Williams, the last couple of weeks, if he can continue that for the rest of the season, that's a much bigger sample size. But so far, okay, granted it's 3 games, 2 games more, but we have a bigger sample size of Jaden Daniels being very good. So I just think that's where it comes from for me, where you can technically say, even if we say it's 2 games that he wasn't very good, that's a third of his games where he wasn't very good, whereas Jaden Daniels, I've got 100% of his games where he was. So that's where I'm at with it. Now, Defensive Player of the Year, we went to Myles Garrett. I've already given my feelings on who the real Defensive Player of the Year is. I don't want to talk about this and throw my opinions in because they are purely emotional. Now someone has been taken out of the ringer. How do you guys feel about it?
Still TJ Watt.
TJ Watt.
Yeah.
Yeah, TJ Watt's had a good season so far. He's shown like he's one of the leading defensive players for multiple years. I still think there's, I think Myles Garrett will always be in conversation, I think.
Yeah.
But I do think there are probably a few others that I think maybe been a bit better than him so far. I wouldn't rule Myles Garrett out just yet.
So just for the purpose of the conversation, the players leading the league in tackles, you've got Robert Spillane, Logan Wilson, EJ Speed, Nick Cross, Franklin Buda Baker are all up there. In terms of sacks, obviously Hutch was at the top of the list with 7.5. Then you have Dexter Lawrence, Will McDonald, Kyle Van Noy, Max Crosby, and Will Anderson.
Tell you what, Will Anderson's a sleeper. Will Anderson's a sleeper for Defensive Player of the Year. He had 3 sacks against the Patriots last week. He was a problem we couldn't deal with. So yeah, look out for Will Anderson.
But then I'm also looking at like interception leaders. You've got Xavier McKinney, Kirby Joseph, Paulson Adebo, Brian Branch, and Dante Jackson, even. Past deflections, you've got Paulson Adebo, Zion McCollum, Denzel Ward, Brian Branch. It's a name that keeps coming up a couple of times. Someone will have to look into that Brian Branch guy. But yeah, he just keeps popping up. Got to be looked into. And then, I think it's always probably going to go to an edge or someone similar. Again, it's a similar reward that which just seems to be reserved for certain positions. But I do think, bearing that in mind with my biases, if someone like Brian Branch can continue, or Kirby Joseph continue on the trend that they are showing, I think you've got, and there are a couple of others DBs that are in there, but it could go to a DB this year. Offensive Player of the Year went to Tyreek Hill. So let's look at who went second in this one. Christian McCaffrey. No, let's have who went third. Bijan Robinson. Went third in Offensive Player of the Year. Well, boys.
Derrick Henry, isn't it?
Derrick Henry.
It's the king. It is the king. No one can until you stop the king. Yeah, it's nothing. Nothing else matters.
I think the thing is, all of us. I think it was me. I think a lot of people saw the move for Derrick Henry going to the Ravens as being not necessarily. It was. I don't think that everyone expected Derrick Henry to still be putting up the yardage and the rushing out that we expected that he has been doing for years. I think they saw that he went there because we know how Lamar Jackson likes to play. We thought that this was going to probably see a dip in his top. And
That's not been the case. It's been anything but. If you drafted in fantasy Lamar Jackson and the King, you're eating. You're eating for days because there's no way no one's beating you. No one's beating you.
That combination in fantasy football is feeding families right now. That's feeding families.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Absolutely with you there.
The one, he's Derrick Henry's current favourite anyway, and the only other player that I think is remotely close to him is Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley's been very good. Another one of those where was he going to be hampered by the fact that Jalen Hurts likes to run, tush, push, all that sort of,
that hasn't happened.
He's
They came off a bye week and he got stuttered by the Browns defense is very, very good. Their run defense is very, very good. So I think he ran into a brick wall there last week. But no, for the rest of the season he's been a human wrecking ball. He's been what we saw in Penn State.
Yeah, he's been very, very good. So, and then third was Nico Collins, and so
yeah.
Well, he's injured for another 4 or 5 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, but that's a major hit on you.
But
Chances of being a great offensive player of the year.
But Tank Dell is pretty much a wide receiver too, anyway.
So the final award was quarterback of the MVP. MVP. Which is also basically just quarterback of the year award. The winner, obviously, by a landslide, was Patrick Mahomes.
And he has been mid at best.
But he has kept them to 5-0, so
6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
So, who would you
I'm just
put
checking
forward
if I've got a ref in my pocket.
Mahomes has been mid? Who would you put forward? Now, I do know of a quarterback who had a perfect game, and I think that sounds very, very good to me.
I mean, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, I was really going to twist your balls, Fletch, and say Sam Darnold because he's also 5-0.
But that's the thing. Like,
Sam Darnold's the comeback player of the year. I mean,
unfortunately,
that's also yeah.
But unfortunately, what was his injury?
Doesn't matter because Gino was up for the award of comeback.
Yes. No, Gino has the same criteria.
But AP changed the criteria this year because of Joe Flacco. So they've now AP have changed. That's what I was saying before.
Right.
Was they've changed the criteria for injury or something specific that set them back the year before. So I was saying a bit before. So, unfortunately, Sam Darnold cannot be up for it. And I only know that they changed the criteria because someone suggested Sam Darnold, and then the reporter went, that can't happen now. But otherwise, I would 110% agree with you that Sam Darnold should be up for something like comeback player of the year. But unfortunately, the criteria has changed. So
the current top 3 for regular MVP is Mahomes' favourite 94, Stroud and Lamar Jackson are both 92. They're tied for second, and then Josh Allen 32. So it's just becoming.
Josh Allen's performing better than any of them right now. Well, excluding maybe Lamar Jackson, he's performing better than any of them right now.
Yeah. Then after that, it's 30, 10 to 1. So it's just a popularity contest. This one. I think the other ones you could potentially, there seems to be a bit more, game focus and performance focus. This just has always felt like a personality contest. And Mahomes is the guy. He's the guy who's leading the league. He's the face of the NFL. He is that guy. So all he has to do is continue winning, and he'll be always in the conversation.
So I'll. So anyway, that was our main ones. I didn't want to go into all of them, and then let's have a little bit of a chat. And Sam, I wanted to throw this mainly to you because this is your domain. You are the king in this domain. But what I do a little bit on fantasy football, because we haven't talked much about it this year. and I feel like that's fair. Now, Karl, I know you play a lot of fantasy football. This is very much sort of an area that you're familiar with. Sam, I know you play a lot, and Sam, you are also aware just how good I am, because I basically ran the whole. No, I slipped the last couple of weeks, but I dabble in a bit of fantasy football myself. I'm going to ask you first. The two major trades that happened this week so far in Adams and Cooper. How do you feel that they're going to kind of affect fantasy? And does someone like Cooper and Adams genuinely see their stock go up in fantasy football? And how do you see that playing out?
So I sort of wanted to have a look at Gabby. We'll talk about Cooper first, because I think this is a really interesting one. At the moment, obviously we know that Alan's main run of the way he plays is on. He's his speed, he does throw the ball a bit, doing a lot of his is maybe he picks up most of the points through rushing. Now, I had a quick look through their roster to sort of see what will impact in terms of maybe other wide receivers, their current wide receiver, which is Paul. Currently, go back if I go just purely wide receivers, I won't include Kincaid, who I think is actually the leading player in terms of points for the Bills in terms of receiving. The highest player in terms of position in PPR leagues is Khalil Shakir, who is, if I'm not mistaken, he's now down as the wide receiver 2. He is currently in PPR ranked 45th, wide receiver 45th. He's the highest ranked wide receiver.
There's me thinking I'm the one that's been drinking. Come on, carry on.
So this can only mean good things for the Bills. I think for Amari Cooper, because they've not been particularly good in terms of throwing the ball, and they've been okay. I think this will help Kean Coleman massively, because I think at the moment he's still learning the game, he's still learning the NFL. I think there's been a lot of potential pressure on him with Khalil Shakir and Sam haven't really been where they needed to be. And I think this will just lighten the load on him, and also probably see his stock go up as well. The only thing I think with Cooper is my biggest concern in terms of with him. He's been in the league 9 years now. From what I remember, he has never been a top 10, or maybe he's only been a top 10 wide receiver once. He's been a top 15 wide receiver. I think it was 4 or 5 years of that time. He's only been a top 5 receiver once. I think that was 5th. I'll have to double check it.
He also, if I'm not mistaken, he leads the league in NFL in drops with 9. So that's something also to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah. So it's
or maybe that's just the ball he's being thrown to by the Browns quarterback, but that's just being hypothetical here.
I take it back. The seasons he's been in so far, he's been a top 15 wide receiver 4 times. He has never been a top 10 wide. He's been a top 10 wide receiver twice, which he was wide receiver 10. Currently, he's wide receiver 36. So I do think I think he's going to improve. I think he's at the back end of his career, but I think we'll probably see his stock increase, because he is now in a team where he's actually got a front to him. The only argument is that he probably will get double coverage a lot. So this is why I think it will help the likes of Kean Coleman and Kincaid maybe improve their stock as well. I do think it will help with Alan. Alan's stock is already high. You don't need to worry about it. He already is scoring 20, 30 odd points over most weeks.
Yeah.
Apart from last week and we won't talk about that. I think he's currently in terms of QBs, he is QB 5. So, there's only 4 at the moment. If we go over to the other side, Devontae Adams, I think this is going to have a real negative impact on Garrett Wilson. Hugely negative impact. At the moment, Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 7. he will not be, in my opinion, he will not be a top 10 wide receiver come the end of the year because of Devontae Adams coming in, because of the fact that we know that Aaron Rodgers loves Devontae Adams. He loves Alan Lazard. So
It's
to me,
basically Aaron Rodgers' friends and family before anybody else that are not associated with Aaron Rodgers. Now, when it comes to the New York
Not
Jets,
family.
so
Sorry, that was
might as well
out
be.
pocket.
Might as well be.
so you know, he could. Garrett Wilson could be a major drop, and I really bothers me because I've had a lot of Garrett Wilson over the last few years because I really like this wide receiver. But unfortunately, I can see his stock plummeting purely because I don't think that Aaron Rodgers will throw to him as much. I think he'll focus on. I think I can imagine that. I mean, the side of him is wide receiver 11. This is a guy who essentially didn't really. He was basically nowhere until Rodgers went to the Jets. So this is that says all. That's all it needs to say to me is the fact that Garrett Wilson is currently 7, Lazard is 11, and Devon Adams is basically taking that role. So I think he'll do if you've got Devon Adams. Excellent. He's going to do wonders for you. And if you've got Garrett Wilson, he's your starting wide receiver. People expect him to be. He is going to drop. And it really pains me because, I mean, I think he has so much to offer going forward, and I think he's just basically going to get ruined.
Yeah, I think that's pretty understandable. I've got nothing to disagree about that. If you want me to take it away from a fantasy and put it into an NFL perspective, I feel like this was the worst kept secret when it comes to Devontae Adams. We knew he was going to be going to the Jets and Rodgers. Anyone with a pair of eyeballs and some common sense would know, yeah, he's going to play with Aaron Rodgers at some point this season. Which was, I think it's like a 3rd round pick, and then if, as you said, Fletch, it's a 2nd round pick if they make the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl, which, let's be real, they're not. I'll put my name on the mast right now and say, yeah, they're not making the AFC Championship. I feel like the Bills, Amari Cooper was not the same Amari Cooper as what he was when he was at Dallas and when he was at the Raiders. However, what I will say is they have got more of a premium receiver at a far cheaper value that can be that is still an elite wide receiver 1. They've only had to give up I think they only gave up, what was it? And they gave up a 3rd round pick for him, or was it a 3rd round pick they gave up?
Yeah,
3rd round pick. Which is amazing value for Amari Cooper. I think this will suit the Bills a lot more than what, say, Devontae Adams will to the Jets, because at least the Bills have got a stable foundation, a stable structure to build around. Whereas the Jets, they're just trying to throw everything at the wall and hoping that it sticks. So on that perspective, yeah. Fantasy perspective, yeah, I think Amari Cooper's going to get a lot of He's going to get a lot of targets from Josh Allen, but he's got to clean up the drops. If he cleans up the drops, the Bills are back in focus and to be on a Super Bowl run. They will be. But yeah, Devontae Adams, he's going to take away a lot of targets away from the likes of Lazard, from the likes of Garrett Wilson, even from the likes of like Tyler Conklin and obviously Mike. We've spoken about Mike Williams already. He's out. He's going to be out the door in the next 2 weeks anyway, or by trade deadline day anyway. So, and that'll probably lose targets as well from Breece Hall as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like the Bills got the better deal regarding of Amari Cooper. In my own honest opinion, I mean, I wish both teams no success whatsoever because I'm a Patriots fan. But you have to look at this on a neutral perspective and say Buffalo they didn't get the better receiver. I still think Devontae Adams is still the better receiver, but regarding a value and how and how he is positioned, I feel like the Bills have got the better receiver in that circumstance.
Better deal for sure.
Better deal, 100%.
Last one, just on the topic of fantasy, just a little quiz, and just I want to hear a bit of football. I've got a long time, but who's currently the number 1? Who's currently in PPR this score. Who's the QB1 at the moment in PPR and fantasy?
Kyler
So
Murray.
when we say PPR, we mean points per receive
It's
reception.
points per. And what quarterback you mean?
Yes, it was currently. It doesn't obviously matter for PPR because it doesn't really impact them, but in terms of just standard PPR point scoring, who is the number one quarterback at the moment?
It's either Kyler Murray or Josh Allen.
Are we including the
No.
rushing yards in this as well?
Yeah, so it's just all the points in terms of what QBs have scored. Obviously, PPR doesn't matter to a QB because it
Well,
doesn't
yeah.
receive it.
I want to go a little bit left field and see someone like Jaden Daniels doing really well because
He's QB3.
Right.
okay.
QB3.
Is it Lamar?
Here's Lamar Jackson. Of course, I should have seen. So, yeah, as I said, if you drafted Lamar Jackson, who's the QB1, and you drafted Derrick Henry, who's the RB1, you're basically winning your chat. You're basically winning your league by a flipping landslide.
So at the moment, Derrick Henry is wide receiver.
Running back. What?
Yeah,
David
who is
Montgomery.
and he's only by 1.3 points.
David Montgomery
No,
or Alvin Kamara?
not even in the top 5. Alvin Kamara, yeah.
Kamara.
I was only thinking of David Montgomery purely because touchdowns, because he tends to get quite a few touchdowns. David Montgomery,
goal line.
of this.
Jameer Gibbs does all the yardage, and Montgomery steals the touchdowns. That's the biggest pet peeve in fantasy.
No.
The number you get Jameer Gibbs to do all the yards, and when you get to the red zone, you get to first and goal. Oh wait, he's offline.
Sir,
who's in there? The Montgomery.
Sir, learn ball, get better ball knowledge. No, he doesn't. that was Jamal Williams in a nutshell.
Jamal Williams.
It was Jamal Williams in a nutshell. DeAndre Swift and Jared Goff throwing it, got everything, and then we get to the 1 yard line, punch it in with Jamal Williams. That's how we broke Barry Sanders' single season touchdown record at running back.
Yeah.
I think we're all from like the 1 or the 2. But to be fair to David
of
Montgomery, boy puts up yards.
The equivalent of a goal poacher in soccer. It is the equivalent of a goal poacher.
Yeah, tap him.
Being in the 6-yard box just to tap it in. That's basically what it is.
But to be fair to David Montgomery, he puts up yards. There's a reason that he's angry running himself through, as Karl Brandt has said, he's angry running himself through the whole of angry runs. Anyway, what was your next one? Sorry, Sam.
Wide receiver. This one's an interesting one. I was having a look at this and I find this really interesting. This is because it's not who I would have expected to be there, but at the same time, I'm too surprised.
I was gonna say Rashid Shaheed for a second, but I don't think it is.
Rashid Shaheed is well. I'm going to get too far down. He's not in the top 15.
Also, would it have been someone like Nico Collins?
He's number 3 at the moment. Obviously, that'll change, but he's number 3 at the moment.
To me, seems to get everyone who's at number 3.
Chris Godwin?
Chris Godwin.
Oh, come on.
Well
Mr. Slotman himself.
Chris Godwin's at 123.3 points. He is just above Jamar Chase in second with 120.5 points.
Do you know what the biggest arsehole in all of that is? Chris Godwin went off for like 30-odd points in the game against the Saints, and Mike Evans only got something like 6. That's got to be the biggest headache you must have witnessed. If you had Mike Evans, you scored 50 points. No, you only got 6. Really?
And then finally, we'll just do tight ends. Who's around this team is the number 1 tight ends.
Is it Brock Bowers?
He's number 2.
Oh,
damn it! I was hoping for number 3. I was on a roll there with them.
Kittle?
Yeah, George Kittle.
It was George Kittle, yeah.
Yeah, George Kittle's on 86.3 points. Brock Bowers is on 82.6. The thing that's killing Brock Bowers is he only has 1 touchdown to Kittle's 5, but he does have over 100 more receiving yards than him. Cole Kmet's in 3rd, Trey McBride 4th. So some interesting ones there. I mean, Kelsey, the likes of Kelsey, Andrews, Kelsey is in 13th, Laporte's in 16th, the people thought was going to get there. And Mark Andrews is 20th. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. What's Bowers gone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Bowers has been a heck of a player.
So, yeah, I'm still not over the David Montgomery slander. I can't lie. I'm not having it.
Sorry.
No, you will be. But
Don't worry, Karl. You missed out what I did on the college podcast. I think I take away the
no, yeah, Sam.
I need to revisit that.
Yes,
I'm on the train Saturday, so that probably will be my episode show to watch.
I was debating last night whether to leave it in or not, or take it out because I got made to look like a very, very silly person. However, after like the argument that I had, and it took so long to get the thing sorted, I was like, I can't be asked for the proper edit, so I just kind of put it out there and then. So, yeah, not happy.
I was half expecting to get chunked off the pod at that point, to be honest.
I was close to booting you. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, just quickly wrapping up. Tech issues at the start have pushed us back a little bit and made this kind of go on a little bit longer than I think we were aiming for. But just have a quick look at some of the weekend's games, like nice and quick. Obviously, Karl, for many reasons, you're looking forward to Pats and Jags. But are there any other games standing out to you? I know Lions Vikings has now been put on it means a lot more in the NFC North this year, that game, than we probably thought a few years ago. We've got a rematch of the Super Bowl in the Chiefs 49ers. What other games are standing out to you this week?
Texans Packers is a big one. I think that could be a really good game.
Ravens Bucks as well, in my opinion.
The Lions Vikings could be a really fun game as well. That could be, a game where we've seen two teams potentially looking at taking that title in the division. Obviously, you don't need to talk about the Chiefs and the Niners. That's a given. Ravens Bucks could be a really interesting game as well.
Yeah, I was going to say
Ravens Bucks excites me.
Both teams could put points on there. That could be one of the highest scoring games of not just of the season, maybe of the decade, maybe.
I think when doing the pick'ems this week, for the sleeper pick'ems that we've got for the network.
Yeah.
I was really surprised to see the win probability was quite heavily in favour of the Ravens, and I was a bit shocked at that one because I thought this would be I think it's going to be a very close game.
I'm also surprised at how low the over-under is. It's a 49. Feels low.
That feels low.
Yeah. Either way, I think that'll be an interesting game. I don't think it'll reach the heights of the Rams Chiefs game. 54, 51, something like that. I don't think it'll reach those heights. But it'll be a very good game.
Still one of my favourite games of all time that I've ever watched.
Yeah, that was one of it was my favourite game of all time, to be honest. Part of the Super Bowl. But yeah, I think that, Patriots Jaguars could be one of those, we talk about it, it's, as you like to say, it's going to be great for all the wrong reasons. This feels like a game that's going to be great for all the wrong reasons, and just the fact that there's going to be just constant mistakes. I can just see this game just being just a ridiculous amount of mistakes.
It's going to go down to a muffed punt and a missed field goal.
And the weather forecast is going to be pissing it down with rain. Yeah. So, yeah. I'll guarantee you, if there's less than 3 fumbles in this game, I'll be shocked.
It wouldn't surprise me if we got to see our first onside kick recovered by the kicking team in that sort of game. It's just going to be
another game, though. Seeing as you wanted to take my good for all the wrong reasons, I've got another one that I also think may be good for all the wrong reasons, and that's the Jets Steelers. I think that could just end up being a very horribly scrappy game. if, because let's just say, I don't think it's a real possibility that Davante Adams doesn't come in and magically the Jets are very good. If you continue with some of the discourse, maybe Davante Adams goes in, and with the rest of the team, there's even more discourse now. You get that in, and then Russell Wilson walks in for the Steelers, and this again, it's good for all the wrong reasons. It's going to be one of them.
I can see that game being very messy and very low scoring.
It's a Sunday night. It's a Sunday night game as well. What Burke decided putting that fixture up on Sunday Night Football was a good idea. Flex the Detroit Minnesota game for Sunday Night Football, because that would be more entertaining.
And it also wouldn't have blocked it out on Game Pass for the second week in a row. I was very vocal.
That's what happens when you're a Super Bowl caliber winning team. You get flexed and blacked out at the same time. So there you go.
One of the games I think would be really interesting, and it's for the right reasons, is the Seahawks Falcons game. That could be very interesting. Two teams that are good, but being a bit shaky at times.
They've got flaws. Both teams have got flaws.
And I think they'll both flaws on the defensive side more than the offensive side, I would say.
Yeah.
So that could be a really interesting game as well. Generally speaking, I think there's a lot of these games are very predictable. You expect
Yeah. Bengals Browns, I think it's one of them.
Yeah, it's just a.
Yeah, this is going to be the battle in mid.
Yeah. I was wondering, because my internet's been bad, and then Sam was kind of going in and out for me. I wondered if it was me or not.
It's a bit like your internet, really. That's also been mid tonight. So.
Was panicking, not going to lie. But yeah, so I think you can check out how we feel about how we actually feel these games are going to go in our pick'ems, which again didn't get uploaded last week because of more arguments with our provider of podcast recordings. But with that, I think it's time that we call this one a day, and we thank everybody for sticking through with us. If you are here because of the rant Karl I posted of Karl going on about the Jets on TikTok, welcome.
I could have had a field day if we were talking Dallas, but we haven't got time for that, unfortunately. No. If you want to see highlights of that game, you won't find it on YouTube. You'll find it on Pornhub because it was the biggest ass fuckery in the world.
The Cowboys are so we can cover that next week, can't we?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
So we get a fun week.
Yes, we can. Right, without further ado, boys. Again, right, if you are with us, I forgot to mention this at the start. Really should have. Follow us on socials. Follow Karl. Follow Sam on socials. Go to links in the description. Be part of our Discord community, which we are starting to build, and it's starting to pick up some nice little bits of traction. We talk college ball. We talk NFL ball. I talk UFL ball on my own sometimes in there. We've got channels for baseball, basketball, ice hockey, life, music, TV and film. Come and just have fun with us, just chill out with us, just chat with us, and many of our hosts are starting to arrive into the chat, and it's going to be great to have you in there. Come talk to us, and yeah, Discord community is something that's really important at the moment. So I will see you both next week, boys. Have a good week. Karl, enjoy Sunday. Have a lot of fun on Sunday. Don't drink too much. And
that's something I can't. That's something I cannot freaking promise, unfortunately.
No problem. It is what it is, isn't it?